What's up, guys? It's Char Sox Baseball, and I'm back with another video. So today, since the trade deadline is fast approaching, I thought it would be a good idea to say what each team should do for the MLB Trade Deadline in 2021. Now, a disclaimer, it is about a week before the deadline, and some moves may happen between the time of recording this and the time that you're watching this. I'm just saying what each team should do. So, let's get right into it. Orioles fans have heard this so many times before, but for this deadline, they should sell. But unlike other years, they don't need to sell all their pieces. You should keep Mancini and Mullins and other guys, but some pieces to ship off would be like Freddie Galvis and Michael Franco because they will soon be replaced by prospects, and overall they should trade for some young pitchers because the bullpen and the starting pitching can always be improved. As for the Red Sox, their offense has always been great, but pitching has been a concern most of the time. Now, this year the bullpen has actually been locked down with Garrett Whitlock, Adam Ottavino, and Matt Barnes, but their starting pitching is still a concern. Nathan Eovaldi has been fantastic this year, but Sale could be shaky when he comes back. The Red Sox should trade for some good starting pitching. On to the Yankees. A lot of people are saying that they should sell this year, but if they execute the deadline perfectly, then they'll end up buying. Now, one key part that they are missing is their outfield. Hicks and Judge are injured a lot, and Andujar and Frazier have not been very good this year. Some outfield would really help them out, maybe in Starling Marte. Another piece that they need to fix is their starting pitching. Severino and Kluber are injured a lot, and overall, every team could use some depth in that department. For the Rays, I really like the Nelson Cruz move they made a couple days ago, but their major hole is in their starting pitching. I didn't like the Rich Hill move they made. They didn't get a great return, and now their only consistent starting pitchers are Shane McClanahan and Ryan Yarbrough. The Rays need to go out there in the trade deadline and secure their starting pitching staff. If they can do that, then they are legitimate World Series contenders. The main story for the Blue Jays has always been their pitching, and this has been a deal for over a year now. Their offense has been great, and Ryu and Ray have also been great this year, but Stripling is their number 3, and he's been really shaky. If they can bulk up that starting pitching, then they will have an elite staff. Their bullpen is also struggling. If the Blue Jays want to make the playoffs this year, they will need to get a lot of pitching in the deadline. They need to talk for Kyle Gibson, and for pieces like Kenta Maeda, they really need to go out there and get some pitching. On to the AL Central, the White Sox are obvious buyers, but they have very specific needs. One of them being second base, where they should go after a guy like Adam Frazier, and another of them being in the bullpen, where they can go after a guy like Richard Rodriguez, or someone less expensive. Moving on to Cleveland, soon to be the Guardians. They probably shouldn't buy this year, but believe it or not, they actually have a very young team. They should sell out pieces like Roberto Perez for offensive prospects because we all know that they are very good at pitching. They might not be able to win this year, but their future looks bright. The Tigers have had a nice surprise season, so instead of trading for prospects, they should start trading for young major league talent. This should come in the form of the infield and the bullpen, as those are the two weakest spots in the Tigers organization. Though they started off super hot, the Royals have had a super disappointing season this year. So, they should trade for some pitching prospects in exchange for pieces like Hunter Dozier and Carlos Santana. Though the Royals have talent, they should keep selling because they just haven't started winning yet. A lot of people will disagree with this, but the Twins should not start selling yet. They have a great offense that carried them to the playoffs last year, and the pitching has been the reason why they've lost so many games this year. What they should do is they should trade for a whole bunch of pitchers with multi-year contracts and try to win in later years. As for the Nelson Cruz trade, I don't like how they gave Nelson Cruz away, but the return was very good as they got two prospects who are almost MLB ready. Starting off the final division in the American League, the Astros really need some infield depth and some bullpen. Starling Marte would fit really well in center field, but the bullpen is where the main struggles are. Ryan Presley is always good, but the rest of the bullpen has been bad this year. Starting pitching has been great, But once they get taken out of the game, the Astros blow a lot of leads. The same thing holds the Angels back every year, and it is always their pitching, both the starters and the bullpen. Now, a lot of people won't like this, but I would at least consider trading Jared Walsh or David Fletcher to get pitching. Ohtani can't do all of the work. I mean, Jose Iglesias could be traded, but it won't be enough to get the pitching that they will need to get into the playoffs. Though the A's bullpen hasn't completely lived up to expectations this year, Trevor Rosenthal will return, and they're definitely buying, so I think they should focus on starting pitching and a cheap shortstop. If they can do this, then they will look really strong going into the rest of the season. For once, the Mariners are actually going to buy. They have a sneaky good bullpen and infield, so they should focus on getting starting pitching and a catcher. When they can fill these in and call up some prospects, they'll be a powerhouse going into the next couple of seasons. They should also try to get a little bit of outfield depth. I think we all know what the Texas Rangers are going to do. They're going to sell. If you can, just get anything from Mike Fultonevich. Otherwise, just trade veteran pieces like Brock Holt for prospects. Starting off the National League, the Braves should buy. It will take a lot, but the NL East is still wide open. First off is their pitching. Their starters have had a lot of injuries, so as long as you get a couple guys on one-year deals, they can have a rotation that will bring them to the playoffs. Next off is their bullpen, which has been one of the worst in the league. They will need quite a few guys to help them get into the playoffs in that department. Finally is their outfield. With Acuna and Ozuna being out for the year, they've needed to start guys like Abraham Almonte, who just haven't been getting it done. If you can get a couple solid outfielders like the Jock Peterson trade that they made, they'll be ready. It doesn't look like the Marlins will make the playoffs this year, so they should trade for some young major league players. Miami has some talent, but they're not a playoff team yet, so they should trade for a couple more guys if they want to make the playoffs in upcoming years. The Mets have faced a lot of injuries this year, but their offensive depth has looked great, so they should really focus on their pitching. The Rich Hill move that they made was great, and I think that they should trade for more guys like that to make sure that they're prepared for the playoffs no matter who gets injured. There's no going around the fact that the Phillies have a great lineup, but the worst bullpen in baseball. The Phillies should aggressively buy this year, but they should spend all of their money on bullpen pieces. They should be the front runners for Richard Rodriguez, and then maybe even try to get a guy like Ryan Tepera. A lot of people are saying the Nationals should buy this year, but if you think about it, that's a terrible choice. They should sell off guys like Max Scherzer and maybe even Trey Turner, because those two guys alone could give them a huge load of prospects. Their farm system would be loaded, and they'll be an elite team in the upcoming years. Although if they buy this year, a lot of those guys will become free agents, and they just won't get the same value for them. As we move to the NL Central, it is no surprise that the Cubs should sell this year. Like the Nationals, though, they have a lot of valuable pieces to trade away, and their farm system will be pretty good after this year. If they were to keep anyone, though, I would expect that they keep either Rizzo or Contreras and let Baez and Bryant be traded. Even though the Brewers are pulling away with the division, I think the Reds should definitely buy, especially considering that they're in second place. They do have the offense to catch the Brewers, but their pitching has been bad all around this year, especially with guys like Luis Castillo underperforming. For that reason, they need to go after some back-end starters and some bullpen pieces. If they can get this, then they at least have a little bit of a shot to catch the Brewers by the end of the year. Speaking of the Brewers, in order to become World Series contenders, they need some offense. Although, they gotta be careful with this. They can't give away any of their key pitching pieces like Corbin Burns, Brandon Woodruff, or Freddie Peralta. If they can find a way to get some good offensive pieces, like the Willy Adames trade they made earlier in the year, without giving away any of their major pitchers, they'll be set for the World Series. The Pirates should keep on selling, obviously, but This year is looking especially good for them because all 30 teams are looking for Richard Rodriguez to be their closer, meaning that they can get a lot of value for him. They also might want to trade Adam Frazier because his value will start to decrease as his age starts to go up. The Cardinals have had a super disappointing season, but they shouldn't start selling yet. Yes, they should sell some pieces like Paul DeJong and Harrison Bader, but in return, they should get some offensive players with longer contracts. This way, they can be set on winning next year, the year after that, and maybe even a few years down the road. They should also pick up a starting pitcher or two, with Jack Flaherty and other pitchers being hurt on the roster. The Diamondbacks need to sell everything. They shouldn't worry about having a historically bad season because they just need to get ahead on their rebuild. They also need to draft extremely wisely because they don't have enough talent on their roster yet to get a huge return of prospects. The Rockies are another bad team in the NL Central, but at least they're better than the Diamondbacks. Anyways, they should at least sell Trevor Story because there's a surprising amount of teams that still need a shortstop. They also might want to sell some of their pitchers as German Marquez will have a lot of value this trade deadline. The World Series champion Dodgers still have a good record this year, but they have a lot more struggles than people expect. Yes, they are obviously buying, but they will need a lot of pitching if they want to win the NL West over the Giants and Padres. First off is their starting pitching, where they have losses to Clayton Kershaw, Trevor Bauer, and Dustin May. So, they will want to get some starting pitching pieces in the deadline. Another lack that they have this year is in their bullpen. Their players just haven't been performing as well, especially Kenley Jansen, so a couple more pieces would really help them out. Like the Dodgers, the only thing the Padres need is pitching depth. Their lineup is fantastic, but that doesn't change the fact that Mike Clevenger, Keone Kela, and Dinelson Lamet are all injured. If they can fill in those gaps, then they will be right there with the Giants and Dodgers atop the NL West. Last but not least, we have the San Francisco Giants, who currently have the best record in Major League Baseball. First off, they need to keep doing what they're doing, but for the trade deadline, I think that they should pick up some starting pitching and some outfield depth. The starting pitching has been great this year, but if one of those guys gets injured, they'll start to struggle. Their outfield is also their weakest part of their team, as it consists of Mike Tauchman, Steven Duggar, and Alex Dickerson. As a group, they've been pretty good this year, but I believe that they can only play this well for so long. A piece like Starling Marte would fit well in there, and if they get a guy like that, then they will be legitimate contenders for the NL West. So, that's all 30 teams. So now I'll display a graphic for the AL on if each team was a buyer, a seller, or they would retool. And then here is the NL. Feel free to pause the video. And thank you for watching. I will be back. I don't know when I'll be back. But thank you for watching, and keep watching Char Sox baseball videos. See you later.